I do believe that the Greek system did a bit of defense and like created a campaign of hate for the film because there was so much praise and then there were some like mixed comments, DMs.
They were so afraid, I think.
So afraid. They didn't want their thing to be taken. They didn't want it to be the end of Greek life as we know it.
Somebody got to cue me or do I cue myself?
Cue yourself.
Okay. Hey, everybody. We're back with another Let's Talk Off Camera, so let's get talking. Woo! Oh, my gosh. This one's big.
Big.
Listen, it's been all over the news in case you've been sleeping, Albert. BAMA Rush is how sorority rush in general has become big business. Today we'll be diving into some of this because our guest certainly knows a lot about it. But Jan, Albert and Jan, Seth, Ash, Andy Cohen has a clubhouse.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And a lot of these podcast shows, like they have these swanky suites that they're in, they're pods. And I feel like we need a moniker or like a neon sign of some kind. I don't know, do we call this the bedroom? Is it too icky?
It's like, it feels like dirty.
It's giving you ick?
Yeah.
I like that
between
though.
Between the sheets.
Between the sheets. No, but Between the Sheets is the name of a podcast.
Is it?
Well, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is.
There probably is one.
I think as a nod to the various collectibles that are in the room, this should be Club Fiona.
No, Albert.
Or Fiona's Den.
No.
Moodang Den.
It's kind of like a freak off, but that's very Diddy.
Yeah, no, he can't say freak off anymore. He's ruined that phrase.
Let's pick up something out of the room.
Masks and such. I don't know. Odd collectibles.
Oh yeah.
Nerds are people too.
Antique shit show.
Antique shit show.
All right, we gotta think about it. I think
coming to you live from the Antique Shit Show.
I think our listeners should send us some ideas.
Yeah, send us ideas, really listeners.
We need a name for this.
Send us ideas. Good ideas only.
Maybe the crib, because this is your son's
the
bedroom.
crib. Yes,
The crib.
Yes.
Maybe.
Well, Chan, you just named it.
No, maybe
I like that.
I bet you that's the name of a podcast, right?
Yeah, the crib is probably a name of a podcast. You're right. You know what? Every podcast name is taken because everybody has a podcast.
All right, this might be the crib. We'll figure it out.
Okay. All right, listeners, I want to introduce you to my friend who is a gem and a true artist, a storyteller. AI can't replace this woman in any way. Rachel Fleit is here. She is joining us in the crib.
The crib.
In the crib. Rachel, I'm gonna do your intro, so here we go. Try not to blush. Not only is Rachel very special to me, she's also an award-winning writer and director. Her documentaries, including Introducing Selma Blair, BAMA Rush, and her latest doc, Sugar Babies, premiered at Sundance. We are going to get into it. We've been waiting for 3 months to have a conversation about this. Rachel, thank you for joining us. Welcome.
Woo-hoo!
Rachel Fleit, everybody. Rachel Fleit. All right. So before we get into it, I hear you have a hot take. You want to defend Albert, the indefensible?
Yes.
Okay. I'm listening.
I heard this from you. He's like, Rachel texted or DM'd me and said she defends me talking about food on the podcast.
She does.
But
true.
I do. Why? And I'll tell you why. I grew up in a house where like when my grandparents called my parents, they talked like almost every day. They would call them, they would say, how are you doing? How are the children? Then they'd say, oh, we went out to dinner last night. What did you have? They would list in detail what they ordered at the restaurant for dinner. It was like a big part of the conversation.
Yes.
It was like a daily thing. What did you eat for dinner? The chicken parmesan. I got a side of spaghetti on the side. I got the broccoli. Mm-hmm. For dessert, I had chocolate pudding with this is like the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, chocolate pudding is amazing.
With whipped cream.
Yeah, and like a dollop in the center.
Dollop, and it had like a skin still on it.
Skin. It was skin. I love the skin. And I like the pudding skin.
You know, it's like Brooklyn and Queens and Long Island, and they just talked about the food. And so I said to Albert, you know what? I love hearing what people had for dinner. I want to know in detail. And so then I pitched to him, and I'm still working out the format here because I realize there needs to be more meat because like law of diminishing returns, it will be like boring if we just call people and ask them what they had for dinner.
I don't think it's boring at all.
But I think there's a seed of an idea here where we call people, and it's like all different kinds of people. And it's like people who might have a bold-faced name. It could be like my dentist. It could be like the Pilates instructor. And we say, what did you have for dinner? It's a little ASMR.
Yeah.
Like, just tell us what you had for dinner.
We could just call it, what'd you eat?
What'd you eat?
What'd you eat? What'd you have?
By the way, and I forgot to bust these out, but Kyle made gluten-free chocolate chip cookies and knew that you were coming today. They're a New York Times recipe, and he said, bring them.
Smell amazing.
So you have to have one.
Rachel, you know what's nice? I work here every week, and Kyle has never brought shit in for me.
Gluten-free, they're delicious. They're great.
So the execs at SiriusXM, actually, we were on a whole group call with them, and they said, I know you guys argue about the topic of food, but we think this actually would be for a good episode.
It'd be great.
And I was like, what? Why are
People
you guys getting
talk
involved?
about food. People enjoy talking about
you could
food.
do
Maybe it's the way you talk about food, because Rachel talking about food, it was seductive. Her voice is gorgeous.
Her voice
her
is
voice is
amazing.
it's like velvety. You talk about food like a man who has never eaten before. And I happen to know you've just eaten.
But I don't understand a podcast about food if you're not seeing it.
You can talk about it. Everyone knows what a chocolate chip cookie looks like. Everyone knows what a slice of
these
pizza
look
looks
like
like.
the size of a head.
Everybody knows about food, and it's a thing that people enjoy. It's communal. It brings people together.
We're going to do one episode about food.
We have to.
Okay,
Who are you going to have on to talk about?
Well, Rachel has to be here. Rachel has to be here.
Well, Stanley Tucci you brought up earlier.
Your dentist.
Yes.
Your dentist.
My dentist.
So, okay, Rachel, as a director and a woman, what is the most rewarding part for you about telling women's stories? Because I find that you tell stories so completely. There's always like a surprising angle, a twist, something I never saw coming. How do you approach your work?
Well, I think my whole, like going back to, the beginning, it's like my whole experience of being a woman has been different. And I think like growing up, I just observed women and like looked at all the other girls in my classroom and like the women in my life. And I was always looking at like, how am I different than them? Which was like a very clear cut way, which is that I was bald. Like I'm bald. I have alopecia universalis since I was like 18 months old. And so it was like this ongoing inner narrative of like, am I like her? But I'm not like her because I have no hair. I would say it was like a bit of a mental obsession. Like I was like, how am I going to be like a normal girl? And like growing up on Long Island in like the 80s and 90s. And it was like
the hair time. It was the hairiest time on Long Island.
Oh my God. And Kelly, it was the time of big hair. And let me tell you something. I did the big hair. I got the wigs. I figured it out. I had a lady who sold me wigs on like Route 111 in Smithtown. I did like the curling iron. I did rave number 4. I got the look. Like I was going to blend in, which we talk about all the time in BAMA Rush.
Yeah, right.
I was just like fascinated by women and I felt apart from. Like I didn't feel like I belonged into like the girls group ever. And so I would say it started really young, this like fascination with women and what it meant to be a girl, what it meant to be a woman. And then when I stopped wearing a wig during college and I became like what I would define as like my true self, and I was like a bald girl out in the world, I was like, you're just a woman. You're just like a girl that happens to have no hair. And like I found my own path through my own femininity and like my own version of that. And then because I've spent so long like kind of observing women, my biggest shock, I think, once I started to feel like I was part of the club, was that like, we all contain multitudes. Like I cannot like look on the internet on like a TikTok video and say, or on a social media post and say like, I know her.
Right.
there's so much more underneath that, because I knew like I was sort of like covering who I really was for so long. And so I think that's like what I'm always aiming to do. And that was like really my entry point for the BAMA girls, because I looked at those TikToks. I started out like I wanted to make a documentary about the sorority system in 2018 when like Me Too happened, because I started to think like, how do you like be a sorority woman during this age of consent, and like what is it like on the campuses? And then I got busy with something else and other projects, and I forgot about it. And then around 2021, I was having a bunch of meetings. I was thinking about what was next, and people say like, what do you want to do next? And I was like, oh, right, the sorority idea. And I just like pulled it off the shelf. And then a month later, BAMA Rush goes viral on TikTok. And I started looking at these TikTok videos, and I was like, this is like avant-garde performance art. Like it was wild. And so I became very fascinated with like, who is the girl behind the curtain of this TikTok video? And I found like these young women, they just like, there's so much there. And we want to not believe that, but it is so true that there's so much there. I mean, I've had like very, very in-depth conversations about like spirituality and like what goes on inside of their minds that, you know, didn't make it into the film and sits on the cutting room floor.
I always think it's so fascinating when you tell me stories about that time, because I discovered BAMA Rush on TikTok. Not that I have TikTok, but my daughter kept showing me these videos. And she was really, I think, regretful that she didn't go to like a big rah-rah school. She went to NYU. It's like, I'm sure they have Greek life there, but nobody really knows about it or talks about it. But she found it fascinating. She's like, these girls are getting ready to rush a sorority, Mom. And she just like could not get over it. She kept showing me these videos over and over again. And I was like, that's amazing. And then your documentary came out, and I watched it with her. I watched it with my sons. I watched it with Mark. I watched it over and over again because I just couldn't get enough, because you think it's going to be a very simple cut and dry story about girls rushing, and it takes many left turns.
I say that college was my favorite time in life. It just was like, I don't know, if I had to, you know, take a time machine back in time, I would go to college. I had a very, very amazing experience in college. And I think so much happens in that time period of you're a kid, but you're an adult. Like you're finally on your own. And it was also like, interestingly enough, it's like the time when my life really changed. It was like when I went to school, when I took the wig off, and like, it was such a sort of potent moment. And I think with the youth, I don't know, I'm like curious about them. My dad said this recently. He was like, you're kind of like ageless. I don't know, it sounds like so cliched, but I just like people. And so I want to know like what it's like to be 51. I want to know what it's like to be 19 right now. And so I would just kind of, I don't know, I think it's a bit of a chameleon. It's a little shape-shifting, but it's mostly coming from a place of like deep curiosity. Like before we sat down to do this, and I've never met Ashley or Jan or Seth. I was like dying to ask them questions. And so it's part of just who I am. Like it's a curiosity. And so I want to know what the kids are saying. I want to know what they're into.
It's really interesting. Joaquin graduated college and he moved back home for a couple of months. And every word he said to us, I was Googling. I was Google translating my son, because I sent him to college and he came back speaking a language I don't understand. Every word I would say to him, he'd go, cap, that's cap. And no cap. But it's constantly, he would say I was capping.
Driving around these cars, like with these kids, essentially, like 18, 19, 20-year-old girls, like I had turned 40 by that point. It's so much fun for me and it's so interesting, but I did have this moment like, at what point are you too old to do this? Like, I hope never.
You're never too old because you're a documentary filmmaker and you're telling a story. And I think this story you told, and every story you've told, has been quite beautiful and clearly in advocacy of the women that you are showcasing. Were you surprised that when you went into the sorority system or the Greek life system, the amount of pushback you got? Were you prepared for that? Did you anticipate it?
No, it was crazy the amount of pushback. Because I just kind of like roll through the world like I'm nice.
I'm well-intentioned.
I'm like a nice girl who's not trying to take anyone down, like smear campaign. I'm here to just like tell a story. This is literally like what we wrote in the email. Like, I want to tell a story about what it means to be a young woman right now through the lens of the Alabama sorority system. And let me tell you, at first, there was a moment where I believe this woman was going to partner with us. And it all happens as it's supposed to happen. I really believe in like the journey is the way, and like the film needed to have that sort of drama to show the power of this system. Yeah. But we were talking with them, and we were simultaneously writing to 500 young women. Like we just like basically contacted, as many, because all of the young women, they put that they're rushing in their Instagram bio. So we just would like write to them and say like, hey, do you want to like tell us what your experience has been like? And they would just be like, either they didn't respond or they would be like, this is totally against the rules. And I was like, oh, the rules? But I'm like a nice person who's like I want to learn about like what it's like to be you right now in this world. Like very like kind of like just pure, really. Like it was not, and I say this all the time when I'm about to start a project, like I have no intention of dragging you through the mud. Right. Like that is not why I'm here on this planet. And it's not interesting to me. Like I don't want to make fun of women.
There's enough of that in the universe that, I think that's why what you do is so unique and interesting, because you never drag a woman.
I won't do it.
Yeah.
So
we don't like girl on girl crime here.
No.
Ever.
No, it's so dark. I think it's one of the darkest things.
Yeah, I agree. But what was weird though was that the way this Greek system, I think it was just like by the total shutdown, they made themselves look so suspicious.
Exactly.
It was wild to me.
What did they do to try to shut you down?
So we were talking with them for a while about partnering, and then out of nowhere, they were like, yeah, we're going to do it. And then this was the national sort of branch. And then out of nowhere, they were like, Alabama Pan-Hellenic has said absolutely not. And so we were like, okay. So then we just went on our merry way. Mm-hmm. And then I do believe, this is a theory, but I do believe that they all talk. Mm-hmm. And I think that the word got out because we were very open. We're the HBO Max documentary about Alabama Rush. I think one person said one thing to another person, and that person said another thing to that person. And I think the way in which they shut us down was they started a false rumor.
Yeah.
And it was just like a false rumor that like we were doing nefarious things, like putting mics on girls. And like, first of all, I say it in the film. It's like, we all know if we work in sound,
yeah, right,
that just wouldn't work.
Well, first of all, it would be probably insanely loud. And secondly, they're wearing clothes that would clearly reveal a microphone. I mean, I've just judging by the videos alone. Do you think they regret not partnering with you now?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's so crazy how it's blown up.
Yeah, it's blown up. It's like it's even bigger now.
It's bigger.
Do you think like it was big and then your film made it huge and now it's huge? Do you think it's like one fed the other?
I think definitely. When we started, the hashtag was 500 million. Mm-hmm. That's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine. It's more than I can count to.
I think it's like 4.5 billion views on TikTok.
It's wild.
Yeah. I mean, I was in a sorority in the East Coast. It was nothing like any of this, and I'm blown away, and it's all over the news now, these parents are hiring the coaches, and you featured that. For me, there's a lot of blurred lines, right? Because I think in a lot of cases, a lot of moms want this even more than their daughters.
Yeah.
I feel that that's, I see my friends with daughters they're on eggshells if their daughter got into the sorority. It's like crazy. And it has to be the right sorority. It's a really big, big deal. And they'll lose sleep over it for a week. But the concept of like, now there's coaches, and now I just saw there's actual therapy. Like therapists have created centers for girls who are dealing with, it's called Gracefully Greek.
Gracefully Greek.
And it's like, at this point, I think people are capitalizing on this in a really fucked up way.
Jen, what did you have to do for your sorority? Can you take us through your rush?
Yeah, I don't remember all of it, but it was at Lehigh. So like I see in BAMA Rush, they have social resumes. They have, it was nothing like that. You would go to a couple of cocktail parties. I think the real number one rule is that as long as you didn't sleep with or try to sleep with any of the sisters' boyfriends or ex-boyfriends, then you were okay. But if you had, or if you were hitting on one of them, then you're not going to get a bed. Right?
Right.
But then, once you get into a sorority, and it became, pledging wasn't bad. Hell Week, I guess, was the worst of it.
What'd they make you do, Jan?
So for us, I'll tell you, I don't care. So we had to sleep in a room all on the floor. And then every few hours they'd wake us up with music. Lehigh is notoriously all steep hills with stairs, and we weren't allowed to take any stairs. So we had to walk, not on stairs.
Like up hills?
Up hills, but not using the stairs.
Okay.
This is dumb. And then we couldn't talk unless we were in a class. We couldn't speak unless we were in the classroom or a sister was talking to us. And that was kind of like it. I honestly wasn't, I don't know if it's because I was from the city and I thought I was too cool for school, but I was just like, this is so dumb.
At the end of the day, every single girl I talked to, and we did end up speaking to over 50 young women to make the film, and then a smattering of them become sort of lead characters. They all told me the same thing, which is that I just want to make friends. Mm-hmm. And so it's in this world we live in where I do believe there is a loneliness epidemic.
100%.
And we are getting so digital everything. We're talking to the robots at all times.
All times.
It's
Albert's best friend is a robot, ChatGPT. Chatty, his best friend.
Chatty. So it's there is this kind of at its core, it is a way for these young women to find friends. They're living away from home for the first time in their lives. They're maybe in a place they've never been to before. They don't have their people. And this is we will be your people. And at its core, I still stand by the nuance of all of it, which is that it is this place where you can go and you can feel like you belong, which I do believe is at the core of every human.
Well, I think community is good.
I agree,
Yeah.
and I agree with all of that. I just find it difficult because college is a place where a lot of people go to either reinvent themselves or, as you said, evolve and really find out who you are. And I feel doing a rush so early into a school year, it's these sororities put you in classes. It's like a tiered class system. And you're then forever labeled. And there's something about that I find stifling. And it's and then certain fraternities won't hang out with certain sororities. And that all, to me, is my problem with this.
So what happens, Jan? Let's say I'm Kelly, and I go to college, okay? Let's just go back in time. And I go to college. I don't take the road I've taken. I take a different road. I already know that I would not have been able to afford sorority stuff, what it takes to get in. I don't mean where you went. I'm just saying if I went to a big school with big Greek life, that would not have been afforded to me. I would not have been able to do any of that. What happens if I go to college and I don't join a sorority?
Okay, well, my take on this is, first of all, without having the money and stuff, you were fortunate. You would get into a sorority because you're a pretty girl. and that carries so much more currency.
No. The money has made me prettier. You forget.
Okay, but
like.
that has so much currency in this day and age is just your looks. And I don't know if you agree with me, but there's so much currency in your looks. Whether you have the money for the nice outfits or not. If anyone can buy a ripped pair of jean shorts and a tank top. You're a gorgeous girl, so you would be fine. And then there's certain schools you would find your friends if you were joined a club or something else. My son doesn't belong to a fraternity.
Right.
He's really happy.
Right.
It's not for everyone, but in certain schools, I think it's necessary. Mm-hmm. And in Alabama, yes, I would have probably been sucked into the entire system. It just, to me, I don't know, maybe it's because I have so many years away from it. I just think people are judging you on such a level. It just makes me super uncomfortable. What was the hardest part for you, out of curiosity?
The hardest part was when they shut us down. Like when the rumor started, I say they shut us down. When the rumor started, we had all these plans. Like we had 6 different camera angles planned for certain things. And we had a whole plan of how we were going to film Rush. And it was just demoralizing. It was like anytime we went on to camera with our cameras, like some young woman would be like, there they are. Like it was so dramatic. And so that was the hardest part. And I was like, how are we possibly going to do this? And it really felt like I was in the boxing ring. And I would call Anthony, who's also a documentary filmmaker, at the end of the night from the Marriott in Tuscaloosa, which became my home away from home. The Marriott Residence Inn. It was lovely. They were like, what are you doing here all the time? And I was like,
nothing. I'm certainly not making a documentary about BAMA Rush.
we're here for a convention, a dental convention. Yeah. And so that part was so hard. And he would be basically this is so stressful, but I promise you, when you're in the edit, this is going to be gold. Mm-hmm. And he was right. And then, the thing about trailers, I don't know if you guys have had this experience, but in the 2 films that I have that are on HBO Max, Introducing Selma Blair and BAMA Rush, people take trailers so literally. Mm-hmm. So with BAMA, there's this line that says this could be the end of Greek life as we know it. And it was that was the line that they were just what? Yes, exactly. Yes, right. What have they done? Yeah. So the film launched on the same day that Max, as we then knew it, was launching. Yeah. So it was at midnight you could watch the film. And so by 11 a.m. it was my DMs were flooded.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But it was also, it was just it was supportive. Wild.
Was it supportive or were there people that were coming for you?
It was mixed.
Mixed. Yes, right.
Also, the last film I made, there was an outpouring of support for Selma and what she had been going through with MS. And so it was I'm wow, documentaries can really be tools to help people feel seen. There were so many DMs from people who felt seen. I would be on an airplane, and because I'm in the film, someone would come up to me and they would grab me by the arm and be like, thank you so much. I went prematurely gray during college and you helped me. Or other people would come up to me. This was actually so crazy. I was doing a lot of core power yoga at the time.
I thought you were going to say cocaine, which is the weirdest thing. I don't know why. I thought you were about to say cocaine, and I was like, this is crazy.
I'm here we go. No.
Core power yoga.
I was I don't know. I just got kind of into yoga sculpt. Mm-hmm. I was going every single day, and this crazy thing would happen in yoga. After yoga, there'd be these women that were looking at me, and they would eventually be like, did you just make the film BAMA Rush? And I would be like, yes. And they would all say really nice things thank you so much. I love that so much. And my friend Brendan was also going to Core Power Yoga at the same time. And he looked at me. He saw one of these interactions and he was like, does this happen a lot? And I was like, it's been happening every day.
Wow.
And he's like, you are the Martin Scorsese of Core Power Yoga. It was really good. But there was so much positive. Like, there was so much positive. But then the haters came. And I don't know. Like,
well, they need to shout louder because they have to.
And then I started to believe in a conspiracy theory, which was that in the same way that the rumor started on TikTok, like we talk about this thing, the machine, right?
The machine.
I do believe that the Greek system did a bit of defense and like created a campaign of hate for the film because there was so much praise and then there were some like mixed comments, DMs.
They were so afraid, I think.
So afraid. They didn't want their thing to be taken. They didn't want it to be the end of Greek life as we know it. But my spiritual experience, which I do want to write about one day in some way, is the haters said all the things I was afraid of hearing my whole life. They said the things that I wore a wig because of, right? Like they were like, you're ugly, you're bald, you're stupid, you're the worst director ever. You are old. This like BAMA, like Barstool, Alabama, like made memes of me. And I actually, like, it was very hard to experience it at first. But I really bounced back very quickly because like I have a brain that will like, I will have tons of praise, but I will become fixated on like the one person that said that
you're human.
Looked like, I don't know, some horrible monster creature. But what happened was, and this is like the spiritual experience of it, is I received these hate DMs alongside like thousands of love DMs, and I survived those mean, nasty comments. Yeah. And it was like, oh, they can't hurt me. Is
that it?
Is that it? Like,
that's all you got?
Yeah. It's like it really healed this like deep wound in me that I was like, oh, you can just say whatever you want now. And it actually, I think, made me a more fearless filmmaker and artist because I was like, oh, they already came for me so hard.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
And that's it.
Yeah. And I'm still working and I'm like making my movies and everything is fine.
Still making art. And why can't you say, I didn't like the documentary because I belong to this sorority and this is how we did it and I loved it and I wish you had featured that or whatever. They can't say that. So they say, oh my God, you're bald.
Yeah.
Like that's like, it's like when people tell me I'm flat chested as though they're breaking news to me. And I'm like, oh my God, you're kidding. I am?
I mean, to me, it fueled me. You know, it did the opposite. I think they were trying to like, I don't know, they felt like, I don't need to get into the psychology of like the bullies and the trolls on the internet, but I do believe they too want to feel seen and heard. Like when I'm in my higher self, like my Michelle Obama, who was on this podcast.
I know she was on this here podcast.
Oh, I loved that episode. I do. I have like so much.
It's very exciting.
I could write to Kelly and Albert and now Jan, if you'll give me your cell phone.
Oh yeah.
After I listen, and Seth, Ashley.
We'll be in a group text.
And just commenting on certain things.
Like Richard, like my dad.
Yeah. But nothing excites me more than Rachel commenting on an episode though.
But so I just like, I'm like in my higher self. I'm like, these people feel like they need to be seen and heard and they don't feel seen and heard in their lives. And so they're taking to the internet to feel seen and heard. And therefore they're harming people. And usually it's like that, like kind of cliche saying like hurt people, right? So it has fueled me because I'm like, oh, I survived that. And now let's go on to the next thing and we'll see.
I'm very curious. And you sort of alluded to it before when you said you scroll through your algorithm and you come up with these subjects for your documentaries, which is how you discovered this industry of sugar babies, which is the most compelling. Sorry,
the truth. It's the truth.
Every time we speak the truth, the alarm goes off.
They're listening.
I find the most riveting. It's almost like the opposite of BAMA Rush. I mean, it's very similar, but it's the opposite world of BAMA Rush. It is a world I didn't know anything about, although I know what Jan's going to say. She's going to say we should start sugar babying on the side because college is expensive, Jan.
Tell me about it.
But I was fascinated by this story because I believe that poverty has a force field that pulls people back. Sometimes the pull of poverty is unescapable, even when you can have a moment to break out, even if you have all of the tools to go in the right direction. There is something safe about going home. Did you experience that? Can you take us on the journey of how you found your subject, how you got in with this group? It's friends and family.
Mm-hmm. Totally. So it's actually so interesting in that I was scrolling through TikTok to find my next documentary subject in like the spring of 2021. Uh-huh. And I had this idea, like I wanted to create a verite documentary that was like kids, the 1990s Larry Clark film, but not in a coastal city, in America. And I wanted to, again, see what it was like to be a young person right now with social media and all of it. And so I set out on a journey through my phone to find these young people with like, I was looking for something that was like, had a bit of meat on its bones. Like I was like, there's, all different kinds of young people in this world. But what I came across was a phenomenon of hashtag sugar baby. And I'm like, what is this? Yeah. And I was working with a story producer and I was like, we need to look for people who are sugar babies, but like online sugar babies was like this phenomenon I had seen on TikTok. And she sent me a TikTok like a couple weeks later and she said, I think I found your girl. And I looked at this TikTok and it was Autumn Johnson's TikTok and she was like instantly compelling. And she was talking about how like she didn't have enough money to pay for college and she'd lost her scholarship and she made $5,700 in one day by asking men online to send her money. Was Autumn Johnson's TikTok and she was like instantly compelling. And she was talking about how like she didn't have enough money to pay for college and she'd lost her scholarship and she made $5,700 in one day by asking men online to send her money. I could probably like quote the TikTok because I've heard it so many times. Yeah. But I needed to meet with her immediately. I was like, we need to get in touch with her. So we DM'd her and we set up a Zoom meeting with Autumn and she was on screen for 10 seconds. And I was like, you contain multitudes and you are fantastic. And can I come and film with you? And she was like, you want to film with me? And I was like, yeah. And so I went down there and we, at first she was like a little nervous and she had to call her mom like after like an hour or two and say, yeah, it's cool. They're not like serial killers, like, cause it's like, who are we?
That was my whole the whole time I was like, I was nervous for her and all of the girls because, some are just online, but I mean, I don't want to give away the plot points. I want everyone to see this documentary, but it can progress. And when it progresses, your likelihood of encountering a serial killer, I would think, would go up exponentially.
Totally. And the thing, so I met her and like her best friend Bonnie was like staying with her and she revealed to us very quickly that she was pregnant. And then we met her sister and then we met her boyfriend and then we met the entire family. This is all within the first filming days. And it took a little bit of time, but I slowly got to meet the whole world, like all of these kids that were living in Ruston, Louisiana, which is the north part of Louisiana, and Northern Louisiana is so different from Southern Louisiana. It's like there's a joke, like if you're from Northern Louisiana, they ask you like, where do you go to church? And in Southern Louisiana, they ask you, what do you want to drink? That's like their Louisiana joke.
Yeah.
But I loved these kids. And what they were doing was like they had created an online sugar baby operation. And it wasn't like to live in like a fancy apartment in Miami and have like a fancy handbag and go to sushi dinners that cost like $1,000. They were like talking to men online with like Autumn's certain kind of like special way that she had sort of crafted to like make money to buy lunch.
Yeah.
Like it was like $20. I mean, sometimes she was making like $1,000 a day.
Well, she was able to cover her college tuition after she lost her scholarship.
Yes, that was the impetus. And then she was like, wait, I can do this. And so she started making money online by just talking and texting with men and flirting with them. And they were lonely. And so they wanted to talk to someone. And this is 2021. 2020 is when she started it. But she's like a bit of a Robin Hood. And so she started an online class and she would teach girls all over the world. She had like 75 girls in her group chat how to make money online from talking and texting with men.
Which I was fascinated by. You know, you would think she would want to keep that for herself, right? Because you're creating competition in the marketplace. But she was very not like that. She wanted them to learn all of the tricks so that they too could get money. I think she understood the mission is that there are a lot more girls like me in the world who can't get their basic needs met.
Exactly. And like she had girls that were like pregnant and like needed money like to eat, and like she would teach them, and they'd be like, at some point someone was like, you should have somebody like you should have people pay for this class.
Yeah, you should charge for it.
You should charge for it. So she started to charge for it. And there'd be young like women that would say like, I have like a 1-year-old kid and I need to buy food. Like, can I pay you after I get paid? And she would be like, totally. And she would get paid. And some girls wouldn't pay her, but she didn't care because she's just a really good person.
Yeah.
And the thing about that place, you know, there are like these things. My boyfriend's mother is an incredible writer, Frances Moore Lepay, and she's written 19 books or something. And she talks about like these things that you need, you know, it's like power, connection, and purpose. And I'm probably like messing it up a little bit, but power comes from money, purpose comes from what you do, and connection comes from your community. And like what I noticed about Ruston was that Louisiana, where all these kids are from, is that they were striving for, you know, purpose. They were, you know, trying to make money and get power, but what they had in spades was connection and community.
They were very connected to each other.
And so it was like they were rich in that, but the system that they live in, like they live in the state of Louisiana where the federal minimum wage is $7.25.
So outrageous. When watching those like congressional hearings and just watching them shut down, giving, you know, cost of living increases was so frustrating for me. That was like, it's so funny because there's so many frustrating parts to it. You know what I mean? There's so many parts where you're like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. But that was equally frustrating.
Yeah. And so it's like they're part of a system that is not for them.
Right.
And so she creates this way that they can, you know, make money and find power and in the process search for this purpose. And it's really hard. But I think ultimately, you know, the film is about being seen, feeling like you matter, feeling like that you're worth something. And we're looking at that through the lens of this like online sugar baby operation. And really at the end of the day, it's like, what does it mean to be a young person in America trying to find purpose, trying to make something of yourself, but you're like really poor.
You're really poor, and the blueprint for you is poor.
Yeah.
And the blueprint before your parental generation was poor.
Autumn says in the beginning of the film, she's like, I want to make something. I want to get out of here. My parents are saying, like, why are you trying to be bougie? Why are you trying to act Hollywood? Like, you're not going to, like, we're from Louisiana. We're not like that, essentially. And like that line says everything.
Yeah, it's almost like
like, don't try to be.
Don't get too big for your britches.
Yeah. I just like basically thought I was going to make a pretty like salacious documentary about like men and loneliness and like, you know, different
taking
forms.
advantage of young girls.
Yeah. And like different forms of like what we define as sex work and what is sex work. And then I was like, wait, this is like a whole different thing. Once I was like embedded in the community and saw simultaneously to filming, there was like this fight for the minimum wage in Louisiana. And the first time I heard about it was like actually from one of our subjects who was like, she says it in the towards the end of the film, Bonnie, the one who had the baby. She's like, I saw in the news today that they were trying to up the minimum wage and they didn't let them. Like, what do they want us to be poor?
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, what? And so then I started looking at it and my editor was like, there's all this like news footage about the minimum wage. And so we were like, how do we bring this in and make this like a bigger story about, you know, what we think about as this part of America that is just like not focused on. Like it is a bit invisible. And I will say like one thing about Sugar Babies, the film, is that I was filming that at the same time as BAMA Rush.
Oh my gosh.
So
the juxtaposition must have been wild.
I was going back and forth between Tuscaloosa and Ruston, and like you could not think of two more different groups of young people.
Yeah.
And it was so wild.
I just loved having you here. Thank you for doing our podcast.
I loved being here.
Listen,
I'm so excited.
Listeners, make sure you check out all of Rachel's documentaries. They're just so good. You are so talented. You are such a storyteller. And don't forget to, I don't know, I was going to say download Rachel's upcoming documentary about food with Albert.
Yes. I am in. Leaned in for that one, Rachel.
It's 90 minutes of just like soft
Food
tones
talk.
about food.
Yeah.
Just talking to people about food.
Albert's like, it's only 90 minutes.
I'll make it 92 minutes.
We can make it a series.
Yes.
Yeah. You guys, you know what's so funny? I would pay attention to that. I would pay attention to the...
We have to think about some programming that like makes it a little meatier, no pun intended.
Didn't you say you wanted to you didn't want to do a cooking show, you wanted to do an eating show? Yeah. He didn't want to do a cooking show.
Well, that's a mukbang. That's like on TikTok.
Yes.
There's all of these people. I didn't know what a mukbang was. It's literally the video where like they take the thing, they make the sandwich, and they eat it.
We watched those.
We've
Kelly
seen
and I have seen a couple of those.
mukbangs. We are like fascinated by them.
We've seen those.
We're always like, we did a mukbang on our show. Do you remember that? We had some TikTok girl, some mukbangers on, and my kids were younger at the time. They knew who they were. They were like, you're doing a mukbang? And I'm like, is it going to hurt? Because I didn't know what a mukbang was. I was terrified.
Oh my God.
But now, because of that, mukbangs are also in my... It's very funny. My
Rachel,
algorithm...
you decide what it is. I'll join anything you decide.
All right, great. Well, this has been incredible.
Well, thank you. Congratulations on all of your films. And I can't wait to see what you do next.
I can't wait to see you next and be here. Thank
Rachel
you.
Fleit, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Can't wait to talk next week off camera. Bye-bye. Let's Talk Off Camera with Kelly Ripa is a production of Melojo Productions. From Melojo, our team is Kelly Ripa, Mark Consuelos, Albert Bianchini, Jan Chalet, Seth Gronquist, Ross Therian, Devin Schneider, Michael Halprin, Julia Desch, and Team Radio Andy, Lisa Mantaneo, Scott Marlowe, Jake Getz.